Recently, I had this really sobering realization that really messed with my head for a few days. It was a familiar scene, another post-New Year's hangout with friends that I've loved for a long time, friends that I used to be a lot like. When all of a sudden it hit me, I had this feeling in my gut, this harsh truth that I couldn't avoid. I didn't belong there anymore. I was listening to everyone talk about the new year, all the things that they were going to change and make happen, how this year was going to be different. When I just got this feeling of deja vu, that I was literally sitting in this exact spot on the couch for the last 3 years, hearing this same conversation. It was the same resolutions, the same complaints about work, about wanting to quit smoking, drinking. This year I'm going to get in shape. It was the same one day I'll change fantasies that never actually moved. It hit me with this wave of nausea, this dissociating feeling, like everything was moving in slow motion. I realized I used to be the loudest voice in the room in this conversation. I used to be the one that was leading the charge on all the talk about how eventually at some point this year it was going to change. For a long time, I've really been passionate about the idea of changing, the idea of growing in different areas of my life. But this past year, I got really honest with myself that up until now, I haven't been doing the things I needed to do to actually change. As I was sitting there, the gap felt massive between us because I realized that my new normal was doing uncomfortable shit regularly. The getting up early, the sobriety, the runs, all the sacrifices that I was making every day in the short term. And they were just not. It wasn't like I felt better than them in some way. It was more like I felt like a ghost, like an alien. I just didn't fit in here. It was so obvious to me since I was able to acknowledge and recognize my own pattern of being stuck that I could see how stuck they were in the loop. But I couldn't find the words to tell them because I realized that they weren't asking for a way out. If you feel more lonely standing in a room full of people that are comfortable, that you've known for years, than you actually do alone, this is normal. It's a milestone because you've reached the point of no return. The common take on growth and healing is that it's like this glow up, you're leveling up. But it's more than that. In reality, growth and healing are like a funeral. Before your new life can really start, before you can really embody fully this new identity, you need to grieve the life and the identity that you outgrew. I've spent a lot of the last year sitting in this silent grief by myself. I realized that most of my closest connections were based on shared numbing. Part of the reason we were friends was because of shared values, but a big reason of why we still were hanging out was because we had shared numbing habits. We enabled each other that it was okay and normal to stay stuck. Today, I want to show you why this loneliness is actually proof of your progress. It's a necessary part of growth, and how to survive the moment that you realize that faking it to fit in is just no longer even an option. For years, I sat in that same spot. I loved the fantasy of a new me. I'd buy the books, talk the talk, do the therapy, but the second things got too uncomfortable that I really had to endure to persist in order to keep going. I would just wind up right back in the comfort trap. I wouldn't even be aware that it was happening. It's hard because it's so rare to actually change. It's really not the norm. It stands in such sharp contrast now that I actually stopped avoiding. But here's the heartbreak. When you start doing the things that you were avoiding and feeling good, feeling empowered, noticing your progress, you want to take the people you love with you too. You look at them and you see all this potential because you were where they were once. I had to break my own heart and realize that I was in love with the version, the idea of who they could be. I was holding on to their potential as an excuse to keep staying in a room where I was suffocating. I had to admit that I can't change people. You can only meet people where they are. They're still where I used to be. They're still choosing comfort over evolution. There was a real guilt that came with this. When I left that environment, when I admitted to myself that I had no choice, I didn't feel like I was winning. I felt bad that I actually felt relief. It's bittersweet because even though you're on this new path, you see them still stuck in those patterns. You just know deep down that most likely they're going to be saying the same thing, having made no progress in another year. So you try to play along. You try to care about the old drama, but it just feels like you're wearing an old costume that doesn't fit you anymore. It just doesn't feel right. People might call you boring or tell you that you're not really living or enjoying your life. You're choosing doing the uncomfortable work every day over a quick and easy escape. But I had to accept that our views on what it means to feel alive are fundamentally incompatible now. To me, living is being finally awake enough to feel the truth, finally able to push past paralysis and avoidance, to be able to follow through on the promises that I make to myself. To them, living is still about numbing the pain moment to moment. You're not leaving them to be mean. You're just leaving them because you can't breathe in that atmosphere anymore. I think the hardest pill really to swallow is that evolution is a solitary door. Most likely you're going to be entering it by yourself and leaving other people behind. I spent so much time and effort trying to be a cheerleader, support, encourage, inspire them, to pull them through with me. You can't make people be ready when they're not. Because the truth is that they're still in survival mode. And in survival mode, numbing is the only way you stay sane. Once you've actually crossed that threshold, when you've sat in the mud and taken accountability for where you are in your life and where you can go. Once you're there, you just can't unsee it anymore. Not in yourself and not in others. You've passed the point of no return, and it makes sense that it's lonely because it's not just rare for the people you know. It's rare for most people in general to truly change, to truly evolve and transform. Most people don't realize that they're not actually serious about growth because growth requires prolonged discomfort, prolonged pain. If you're choosing that discomfort, you're part of a very small group. You're trading the safety of fitting in for the integrity of being real and authentic. If you're in that hallway today, don't go back inside the theater just because it's loud and familiar. You need to stay in that silence. It's the only place that you can really hear yourself. Leave a comment below and let me know when you realized that you reached the point of no return, when you could no longer fake it to get along. I'm proud of you. You're doing something hard, but it's so worth it. You're unlocking a totally different and better timeline for yourself. I hope you're taking good care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.